Good morning. This mic is a little sketchy, so we'll see how it lasts. But it sounds pretty good now. I think, though, at least I know there's a wireless over there in case I need it. All right. Well, I want to thank you all for welcoming me here, and Happy New Year to everyone. And I also want to thank Reverend Tracy for giving me the opportunity to speak on her pulpit. She welcomed me with open arms, and it's something that I've been doing just to keep my speaking chops up, is going to various centers around the valley and elsewhere just to speak. And so I so appreciate it. In fact, it's kind of become my mission now that I'm actually giving ministers a little bit of a respite, just to take a deep breath, and I love being able to do that. So Reverend Tracy, if you are watching, I bless you, and it is so wonderful to be here in this community. And and by the way, Mel, that was an amazing meditation this morning. Thank you so much. He brought into it the word possibility, and it really is the emphasis of my talk today. And the word in and of itself seems a little counter to our philosophy sometimes, because we always speak from that affirmative that I am love, I am joy, I am prosperity or abundance. And when you enter in that word possibility, it's like, well, possibly I'm love, or maybe I'm joy, perhaps I am prosperity. So it's almost funny to think about it in that way. And so when I knew that was the word that I wanted to use for this talk, so I decided to look it up in the dictionary, and I was even less inspired by that definition. It said the likelihood of opportunity, an option, a prospect. Meh. But then I read this amazing quote from Lynn Twist, and she said, I refer to possibility not just as a conglomerate of options, but as a mindset, a way of thinking and interacting with the world that sustains and inspires and empowers. Now that I can totally get behind, right? And it fits very comfortably in our philosophy. And it's a good starting point for today and this new year. And so today, the title of my talk is Attune to Possibility. And I'm going to start my message with, I often do this. I use Science of Mind teaching, so I'll be using the creative process to talk about. Is everybody fairly versed in that creative process, that symbol over there? I would assume you are. And I'll give a little summary as I'm going through. And then I'm going to be thereby making my way into the unlimited potential of possibilities. And I'm going to reference one of my very favorite spiritual principles that I will get to in a second. And then I'm going to get a little bit nerdy and bring science into the conversation, because, as Mel was saying, we are religious science. That is part of who we are. We pull from science to back this philosophy. And so we are all very familiar with the symbol. And just as kind of a summary of it all, it is a circle, and at the top of the circle, it's divided into three sections. At the top is spirit, and this is where I like to think of that divine inner voice coming forth from us. It is those thought seeds that we think of. It is that still small voice, or that intuitive ping that we get from time to time. And what happens is that thought comes in and through, or that inspiration or that light comes in and through the law, which is that vessel by which things come into form, which is the manifestation of it. Now, this is what happens in that perfect world. So we have our seeds at the top. It works its way in and through law and turns into what I like to think of as parking spaces, princes or princesses, and palaces, right? And so that's the perfect world that we live in. And as we are spiritual beings having a human experience, it doesn't always work out that way. And there's something that happens in that middle section of law. That is where the fun happens with us. And it's these blocks that develop throughout our lifetime often. And so we get inspired in such a way, and something gets in the way when it starts working its way in and through the law. And it seems to kind of reflect it either into the ethers or whatever you want to call it, but it doesn't seem to manifest the way that we had originally inspired for it to do so. These blocks, I think Ernest Holmes often speaks to the mental equivalent that car that we saw down at the bottom in form. We thought, oh boy, wouldn't it be great to have this hot sports car, convertible or whatever? But there's something in the back of our mind that's saying, there's just no way that I can afford that car. Or we're thinking that it's not very economical, or we have something in our past that's coming up that really provides us not the outcome of that beautiful, shiny car happening. This can also be in the form of collective consciousness or past traumas, family history. Even our ego gets in the way oftentimes to reflect that thing back into it. These blocks can be so deeply seated within us that no amount of affirmations or prayer seem to allow us to work our way through that unencumbered. And it just keeps us from manifesting those things of our dreams. I have a story about my mom that I wanted to share because I think it's it relates very well to this. She just turned 90 about 5 months ago, and she lives in this beautiful assisted living community called Sagewood in Phoenix, about a mile away from me. So I'm in close distance, so I could be over there whenever. And when her husband went into the memory care area of that, I kind of I set an intention, and I said, and that intention had to do with really being part of Mom's life, even more so than I was. That meant going to her place often and just really being a part of her life. And that took the form of lots of different things, like handyman, like technical support. And I don't know if, this is a mixed audience, but if you've ever helped your parents in technical support. And for those of us that are parents that rely on our kids, I just want to say, bless them, because it is quite a thing to do. Anyway, and there was what I think started developing after a little while is whenever I would go over there, I felt like I was the recipient for a lot of anger. And oftentimes I felt like she was downloading on me some of her frustrations, some of the things that her husband didn't quite do to set her up, some of the things that her stepdaughter did. And these were stories that I would hear repeatedly every time that I came in. And that place of listening and smiling kind of started to shift a little bit. And I also started to feel some resentment towards my brothers, who were on either side of the country. One's in Washington and one is in New York. And because it never felt like they were connecting with Mom at all. And except for my brother from New York, who would once a year swoop in like the prodigal son and fix everything and then swoop back out thinking that he was the hero, and I was still here in the trenches working with mom and being frustrated. So a lot of resentment started to build up with this. And I remember talking to one of my practitioner friends, and I laid the whole thing out with her, and she had said, so Jeff, would you like me to be a friend right now, or would you like me to be a practitioner? And I said, I would really like a friend right now. And she said, I love you, and I hear you, and I absolutely love that person that you are right here and right now. Now, would you like to hear from a practitioner standpoint? And I said, yes. And she said, so everything that you are encountering now is for your own good. There is something to be worked out with your brothers. There is something to be worked out with your mother. There is something here that is calling you to a higher place. And then she also sidetracked a little bit and said, and I wish my mom was still here too, so that I could experience those things with her. And there was something that shifted with me. It was like one of those paradigm shifts that happens that says, there is something here for me there's an infinite amount of possibilities that are here for me. What if I were actually to come into this thing from a place of compassion, unconditional love, and gratitude? And so that's exactly what I did. Every time before I went over to her place, I centered myself like any practitioner would do before visiting a client, and I went in from that place. And it is so amazing in our philosophy that when we want other people to change in our environment, when we go within to do that work, it's a miracle, because everybody around us change. It is such an amazing thing. And I found that our conversations started getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and there was really this balanced conversation that I have really gotten to love. And it all kind of came to fruition for me that there was a shift that took place in my life when my other brother came out for a visit, and we were all in the dining room of her assisted living facility. And my brother took me aside, my brother John, he took me to the side, and he said, dude, I totally understand now the burden that you are under. And it was like my heart broke open when he said that, because I knew very clearly, I said to John, I said, it is not a burden. It is a privilege and an honor to take part in this stage of mom's life. And then the icing on the cake is whenever I think about my brothers, I don't think in that place of resentment. I think of compassion, that they are not actually experiencing the same thing I'm experiencing with mom. And it's been a wonderful shift in my life. There's another truth here as well, and it's about recognizing that spirit is never bound by limits that we perceive. That even if we have no specific blocks in our lives, what lies at a deeper level is unlimited. And one of my very favorite spiritual principles is that principle is not bound by precedence. This means, I think that was a Troward. I'm pretty sure that was Troward. Somebody could correct me and tell me it's Ernest Holmes, but I think it's Troward. This means that the infinite creative potential of spirit isn't constrained by what has come before, no matter what our past has looked like. No matter what limitations that we've placed on ourselves, spirit remains unencumbered, working in and through us in all ways. So I also wanted to change this for the purposes of this talk to possibility is not bound by precedent, because it is exactly the same thing. There is this story over in UC Berkeley where it was a statistics class, and a student who was late went to that statistics class, got there late, found himself a seat, and up on the board was were two problems, what he assumed were homework assignments, and so he wrote them down. And then a few days later, he came back to class and he handed the professor his homework, saying, these were a little tougher than usually they are. And the professor just stared at him dumbfoundedly, saying, these were not for homework. These are famous unsolved statistical problems. And so this student, his name is George Danzig, went on to become a world-renowned mathematician, a mathematical scientist who made contributions to industrial engineering, operations research, computer science, economics, and statistics. Can you imagine approaching life in this way, where anything that our past history or issues or traumas or family history we were not tethered to at all, that we were sort of on this platform that we could only see forward, and what was in our eyesight is unlimited possibility. And when receiving a challenge or being confronted in those places of decision, we are in a place of awe instead of fear, knowing that there is an elegant solution here for me. It is just like this student did who came in who had no idea that this was a tremendously challenging problem that he was facing. So it never came up, and he just worked right through it. So as we incorporate this mindset, we begin to see the world not through limitations of our past, but through the infinite creative potential that resides within us. And this is where I'm going to get a little nerdy and bring the science part of this in. There is a key concept in quantum physics that shows how intention and observation shape our reality. It is demonstrated by the double slit experiments. Have you heard of that? Does it sound familiar? It's okay. And I'm not going to get really technical here, but in the experiment, particles such as electrons behave like waves, creating an interference pattern when not observed. However, when scientists observe them, the particles act like solid objects. Clay, were you able to get that slide on there? Oh, I'm so grateful for that. There we go. It's hard to see, but so here is the difference of the light acting as particles and acting as waves. So there's a difference here, but the only difference that is here is when somebody is actually witnessing the process happening. Now, I am not a quantum physicist, and so I show you this with a little grain of salt. Either this is directly related to our philosophy and has a direct impact, or it is just a hell of a good metaphor. So you can make your own choice in that, but there are some spiritual integration here around this very experiment, and that is, number one, observation as a creative act. That in the quantum world, observation determines reality. Similarly, in our spiritual practice, what we focus on becomes our experience. So if we are focused on fear and lack and limitation, well, by God, that is what we are going to experience. Conversely, if we are focused on love, unconditional love, and joy, and all of those other positive things, those in joy and abundance and prosperity, we manifest those very qualities in our life. Number 2, infinite potential within us. The unobserved particles represent infinite potential within each one of us. We live in a state of abundance, of boundless possibility, until we make a choice to set that intention. Then everything around us collapses into that one intention. This aligns beautifully with our spiritual truth that we are co-creators in this life with the divine, empowered to shape our reality through conscious thought and action. Last, number 3, the role of intention. Intention acts as the observer in our spiritual lives. It's not enough to simply let life unfold. We must consciously decide that what we wish to create. And when our intention aligns with the infinite intelligence of spirit, we open that door to miracles and transformation. There is an invitation here as well. And I was thinking about this when I picked up my guitar a couple of months ago. And the first thing that we do when we grab the guitar to play it is we tune it. And the process is the very bottom string, we go to the 5th fret and pluck it, and then we pluck the next open string to create an A note. Now, it's going to be out of alignment, so we adjust that tuning key to bring it to the same note. And there's something a little bit deeper that you'll appreciate, that when we strike those 2 chords, there's a vibration that starts, that is there. It's like a wave, and when the 2 strings are out of tune, you can hear that wave at your very core. And as you adjust the tuning key, the wave flattens out and becomes one. And it's the same thing that I'm inviting us into today, is the way that we treat life as sacred. That when we are encountering some challenges or some of those past history things that keep seeming to occur in our lives, to be able to sit back and take a deep breath, turn the key a little bit, to recenter ourselves, to really bring forth that spirit, that co-creative nature that we really are as spiritual beings having the human life, and always shifting into that spiritual part of our lives simply by doing a quick adjustment. And so as I am bringing this message to a close, it is that possibility is not just a concept. It is at the very core of who and what we believe here as science-minders. And each of the things that I spoke to today, that creative process, those blocks, the principle is not bound by precedent, and just those ideas around what we observe becomes our reality, or what we intend on becomes our reality. These are the ideas of possibility, and they are absolutely endless. And so I'd like to leave you with a quote from Marianne Williamson. I know you've heard it a lot, and it's always a great reminder. She says that you are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. And there is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. And so as we attune to possibility, we are stepping into our divine inheritance. We are saying yes to the infinite good that Spirit is always offering. So I'd like to bring that into prayer, if I could. And so breathing into this moment here and now, I recognize the infinite one in all of the possibilities that are here and now. It is a recognition that I am connected to this divine soul in all ways possible. It is both my center and my circumference. That there is endless possibilities for each step that I take forth. And with each intention that I set, I create a world that works for everyone and most certainly for me within. And so I know that I am this free individual to act and to move as I choose, untethered to past history, to past ideas, to the past in any way. That I am this liberated divine soul of God. And so it is coming from a place of love and joy that I speak a word into this community today, knowing that these endless possibilities are here and now for each one of us, and that there is nothing getting in the way of that free flow, unencumbered idea of us completely manifesting the life of our dreams. I also speak a word for Reverend Tracy, knowing that she is in her perfect place and her perfect time, and that this community is in that place of unconditional love and support, and that all is possible here and now. And so with that grateful, grateful heart, I just be in that place of gratitude abound. That it is all good, that it is all God. And I release this word into that universal law that says, yes, my beloved, just as you wish. I release it in faith. I let it be. And together we know this truth by saying together, and so it is. Thank you.